Nothing frustrates me as a consumer more than when you're clicking to something and it's taking you to information that's not related to what you're looking at. So if we can make it as easy as possible for travelers, we're also building a relationship with those travelers saying, "Hey, if you click this link, it's going to take you to information that's related. It's not going to take you on a wild goose chase across the website."
This is Social Pulse Podcast Hospitality Edition, your essential resource for mastering the unique challenges of social media marketing in the hospitality industry authentically. I'm your host, Mike Alton, and each episode we dive deep into the real issues, from evolving guest expectations to standout social campaigns, sharing insights and strategies you can put to work. Let's get started with today's episode. Welcome back to Social Pulse Podcast Hospitality Edition, where we're digging into the challenges, successes, and the stories of social media community professionals in the industry just like you. Subscribe to gain valuable insights that you'll be able to apply to your own work and social presence from each and every episode. Now, have you ever tried explaining the magic of your destination using only a Facebook post? Tourism marketers everywhere are wrestling with the shift from glossy brochures to compelling digital content. You're constantly balancing the need to showcase breathtaking landscapes while somehow measuring if all those likes actually translate to visitors. Today's conversation brings you practical wisdom from someone who's mastered this transition. Megan Myers, Digital Media Director for the Hocking Hills Tourism Association, has transformed how Southeast Ohio tells its story. She's moved beyond traditional print ads to build thriving digital platforms that actually drive tourism. Through social media, blogs, and newsletters, Megan's work showcases the region's natural beauty and experiences in ways that connect with real travelers. Ready to reimagine how you tell your destination story? Megan's insights on digital transformation might be exactly what you need. Hey, Megan, welcome to the show.
Hi, good to see you.
So glad to have you here. Let's start with a bit of background. Tell us about the Hocking Hills Tourism Association's marketing strategy, what it looked like before you came on board, and kind of what inspired the shift to a more digital approach.
Sure. So the Hocking Hills is a region in Southeast Ohio. Our biggest attraction is the Hocking Hills State Park. And as the Tourism Association of the area, we market the region. When I first started back in 21, the strategy was primarily print, TV, radio, and they had a limited Facebook and Instagram and Twitter presence as well. They hadn't had someone that was specifically dedicated to social media. So when they brought me on, that was the goal, was to focus on the social media aspect and try to bring that in because it was gaining so much traction.
Cool. So that's a great segue because I wanted to know how you figured out which channels to actually use. There's a lot of different options, a lot of different social networks, certainly, and other kinds of digital channels. Which ones did you use and focus on, and how did you figure out which ones might be most effective for sharing the Hocking Hill story?
Sure. So, one of the biggest things is think about who your audience is. Who are you trying to get to come to your destination? For us, one of the main attractions is cabins. So, you're coming for a cabin stay, luxury lodging, tree houses, yurts, all of those kinds of things. And something we needed to be aware of is a lot of those lodging options don't rent to people younger than 25. So we already knew our base was 25 and we wanted to go up from there. We also know that the weekends get filled with families, younger people. So we already knew that that segment was being taken care of. So we wanted to focus on midweek. Who can come midweek off season? You're talking about like a retired age group, um, mature and affluent is what we say because we do have more expensive lodging options. So you really have to kind of focus down on who your audience is, and then once you have your audience, then you can say, well, which platforms are they using? And you can do that with the back end analytics. So, like on Meta, we were able to see Facebook was really good engaging that particular audience, and Instagram was really good at the bracket right below. So we're talking boomers and Gen X on Facebook, and on Instagram, Gen X and older millennials. And those are the groups that we're trying to advertise to specifically. We realized that Twitter was not getting a lot of engagement. So I said, hey, let's stop that. Let's focus on the Facebook and Instagram. Let's put all of our effort behind those because I think that's where we're going to see the most traction, the most click throughs, and things like that.
That makes perfect sense. Like I was telling you before we started recording, I'm originally from Ohio. I grew up there. I've actually rented some of those cabins in that area. I had friends who were living in Baltimore, and we get a cabin south of there in the Hocking Hills area, and it was fantastic. But this was a long time ago. This is before social media was really a thing. Obviously, it was before you were on the scene creating a great social presence. So it was a lot harder back then to find property, to understand, what's involved, what's around it, what does it even look like? It's a lot easier, I think, today. But when it comes to content, I'm wondering, there's a lot of different options. There's stories, there's reels, there's regular posts, photos, no photos, and so on. What have you found to be the most effective for engaging these potential visitors now that you're focusing on, Facebook and Instagram?
So you have to think about the platforms as being separate because you can use the same content, you can tell the same story, but you have to do it in different ways on Facebook versus Instagram. So let's say we're wanting to tell a story about a business, such as one called Grandma Face, which is like a beloved business right near Old Man's Cave, which is one of the main trails that people come to see. And the way that we tell that story on Facebook is we have a reel that goes through Grandma Phase, shows you what you're going to see. And then in the post part, we're going to tag Grandma Phase so people can go directly to their Facebook page. We can throw in a link that goes to Explore Hocking Hills to the business listing. We can give people different areas to click through and see different things, but we want to get them directly to the information they're seeking. Nothing frustrates me as a consumer more than when you're clicking to something and it's taking you to information that's not related to what you're looking at. So if we can make it as easy as possible for travelers, we're also building a relationship with those travelers saying, "Hey, if you click this link, it's going to take you to information that's related. It's not going to take you on a wild goose chase across the website." So that's how we look at Facebook. When you go to Instagram, different audience. And you're not necessarily going to have the ability to link to the direct businesses because so many of our businesses in Hocking County, so the Hocking Hills region, are ma, pa, family ran businesses. They don't have time to run a Facebook and an Instagram and a website. So on Instagram, you might not be able to tag them directly. So you really have to be intentional and engaging in that reel. So you can see we're using the same reel on each platform, but we have to think about how we're getting people to go learn more. So you have to make your caption interesting enough. You have to make your reel interesting enough that the consumer is going to take the time to do those extra clicks to get to a link in your bio to then take you to more information about grandma phase, for example.
So smart. And it's why I tell people all the time, don't pay attention to how I personally do social media because I'm super, super busy, like those, solopreneur, mom, pop business owners. So I'll share pieces of content to all my social channels because I'm on all of them,
Mhm.
but I don't have the time or take the time to customize them for each one. Like I know I should, but I don't have that kind of time. And you do, which is fantastic. But one of these really interesting tensions, I think, that I'm picking up on here is this fact that you want to show off the natural beauty of where you're at because that's what's drawing the people to that area. At the same time, the trees don't pay any bills. You need to talk about the businesses in the area. You want to talk about them. You want to hype them up. How do you balance that? How do you, draw that line or distinction between showcasing what folks can do versus where they can go to buy and eat and so on? And how does that impact your digital strategy?
So, one of the things that I focused on this year, so it's become a strategy for this year, is saying, how can we take an itinerary and turn it into something engaging that's going to be on social media? So when you do an itinerary, you can say, hey, first day, why don't you start with a gorgeous hike at Ash Cave? And then go check into your lodging and then go to dinner at Millstone Barbecue. And by doing that, we can show these gorgeous landscapes as well as point out all of these businesses and activities you could do. Day two, why don't you go horseback riding? And while you're in that area, you could go to this other restaurant. And you kind of ping pong people around to the different places. And it's nice for them because it might be their first visit. So if you can say, if you like these kinds of activities, you can do this itinerary. If you like these kinds of activities, you can do a different one. And so one of the things that we've been doing on that front is on our website, we have an itineraries page, and I go through and try to add to it regularly. But we have one for active retirees, we have one for families with kids ages 6 to 12, bachelorette parties, different things like that. So once you have a base content, base piece of creative that lives on your website, then you can go in with photos, you can do reels, and take what's just on paper on your website and give it life. Show, you know, this is what a teaser of the trail looks like. And if you go horseback riding, here's what it looks like. And you can get excited about the different activities and the different restaurants. So it pulls in all of it together. And that's the way I found to be the most engaging on showing the different aspects of the area and the different things people can do, um, by kind of guiding them through a story of this is what you could be doing when you come here. So I think that's the best way I've been able to find to tell the story of the nature plus the businesses that we want to promote in the area. So our membership.
Love that approach. That's very similar to one that we talked with Kevin First from the Poconos Mountain Visitors Bureau in a previous episode on. Very similar approach, certainly very similar organization, different part of the country, same kind of audience. So I love that. And I'll link to it in the show notes below, folks, if you want to listen to that one. But I'm also wondering, Megan, about newsletters, because I know you talked about that. What's been your approach to growing your newsletter audience? What kinds of strategies have actually helped you, not only increase subscribers, but increase open rates?
Yes. So I am very passionate about my newsletters. When I started, we had just over 40,000 subscribers, and we're well over the 60K mark at this point. I boil it down to you don't want to waste people's time and you don't want to be spamming them. You don't want to send so many newsletters that they're just like, oh, here's another newsletter. So I follow it, keep it simple. I have it set up to where you're going to have new content each month. It's a monthly newsletter, so just one and done. And on that, you'll have the new content, like I talked about, that lives on your website. So you're driving traffic to your website. Once you're on that content, so, say an itinerary, like we just talked about. We have an itinerary for active retirees. Maybe they want to go see Cedar Falls, and on that itinerary, I can link them to different places on the website. So I'm using just one itinerary on the newsletter, but once they're in on the website, I can link them to more information. But like I said earlier, you want to make sure you're leading them to what they're wanting to see, not send them on a wild goose chase, but give them the opportunity to look through the website in a guided way. So that helps with the click through rates. So we want to give them 2 to 3 really quality pieces of content to look at. One itinerary, one, let's see, one ultimate guide. So like I have an ultimate winter guide, spring guide, things like that. So they're getting an overview of what's happening in the area. And then I say 2 to 3 events. So pick 2 to 3 really popular, really well attended things that people get really excited about. So, like Bigfoot Festival or the annual winter hike, things like that. Seasonal, of course, things that are coming up. But if you can keep it to, I would say 6 max blocks of things that they can read through and focus on quality over quantity, I found that kind of honing that approach gets people more engaged and opening those newsletters. And then something else that I didn't think of, but the digital agency we work with told me, and I found it to be true, that when you add an emoji to your, like, email headline, um, like the subject line, people get more engaged with that. They see it, it's friendly, it's personable, and I found that to work as well. So keep it simple, highlight important things that people are going to be interested in. And then once you guide them to those pages, make sure you're providing more information. Hyperlink out to other parts of your website. And on the back end, you can see how much time they're spending on site. So if you have a blog or an itinerary and you see that people really like information about lodging, maybe next month you highlight that, you put it right at the top, more information about lodging, and you can kind of follow month by what people are interested in. That's what I found to be successful.
Those are great recommendations, a couple really cool things to test. And of course, we're going to have a whole episode just about the Bigfoot Festival. Folks, we're talking with Megan Myers about storytelling on social media. And I've got several more questions for her. But first, a few words from Neil Schaefer.
Social gets quite complex because you need to be everywhere all the time. And you need a tool. It is a lot of data. It's a lot of conversations. And even if you are a single brand and you're trying to do this yourself, it's a lot of different channels. So you need to be able to handle all this in a very, very efficient way. Let me tell you, I've gone through the history, starting with TweetDeck and then Hootsuite, and I've sort of moved on because I know that spending an hour a day doing this or spending 15 minutes a day doing this is a huge gap in terms of efficiency, and it allows me to focus on the actual engagement with people. That's where the magic happens, right? So if you don't use the right tool, you miss out on the opportunity. You miss out on conversations. You miss out on sort of the history of your relationships with these people. And you might miss out on an entire social network because you're not able to flip through them easily like you can in Agorapulse. Say, oh, wow, I already have 10 notifications in my Facebook. I've been ignoring it. I got to get in there, right? And all the other features that Agorapulse brings. Now, Agorapulse has stayed the course. And one of the things I love about Agorapulse that not a lot of people talk about are the reports. The reports are awesome. As an agency, I will often use the reports. I will customize them. I will not use everything that's in there. But they are a firm basis to show the ROI of what you're doing in social to your clients or to your boss.
So I love, Megan, how you mentioned a moment ago that a lot of mom and pop business owners don't have the bandwidth to manage a bunch of different social profiles. But I think that's true for all of us. I know many hospitality marketers, even for large organizations, they struggle with limited resources in one way or another. How are you prioritizing digital initiatives to help kind of pursue what you want to do when it comes to strategy when you know you can't do everything?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things is I use a scheduling tool. So I can be working in advance. If I have, 2 hours I can do one day, but I know I have a bunch of meetings the next day, I can get things scheduled in advance. The other thing is focusing in. Like I said, when I came, they had 4 platforms they were working across. And I honed that down to the ones that we're seeing the highest ROIs on. So the Instagram and the Facebook. Something that I've been told by the digital agency that we work with is you want the algorithms reward consistency. So whereas this is my job full time, I can post daily. Not everyone can, but if you can post consistently 3 times a week on the same day, then the algorithm rewards that versus sporadically. The other thing is I do have the ability to work with an agency that I provide the creative. They manage the ad side of it. And then something that recently I've been able to do, and I found that was almost a necessity, is hired someone that can, their exclusive role is I say, hey, I need these 4 videos this week. And he goes and makes the reels. And I know that's not attainable for every organization, but keeping up with the algorithm, it really rewards reels. It really rewards that video. So those are the 3 things that I have found most helpful for me at our organization.
And that's so cool that you're finding agencies, you're finding freelancers or other kinds of individuals and groups to partner with. And I know you're also partnering with Ohio's state tourism program. Tell us about that.
So the co-op has been happening for many years. It's gone through different evolutions, but what we've found is when you can rally behind the tourism association of the state, then people are coming to Ohio. They're seeing Ohio as a destination. You can go, up north and have beaches. You can come down southeast and have the Appalachian foothills. You can go to one of the three C's, Cleveland, Columbus, or Cincinnati, and have the city experience. So we like to say rising tides lift all boats. If we can tell a compelling story as to why someone should come to Ohio, we can point them around to different places, show off the different types of entertainment and different types of destinations that we have within the state. Um, it gets people excited. We can all pull together by working through that co-op.
Love it. Now, one of the things I had talked about in that other podcast I mentioned earlier with Kevin was this unique situation he and his organization found themselves in where a lot of their social posts weren't promoting themselves, they were promoting their member businesses, which I know you're doing as well, which
Mhm.
creates this challenge of measuring success. So I'm kind of wondering how you currently measure success of your social media. How are you measuring the business impact of what you're doing on social media, particularly when you're not always talking about yourselves?
Yes, it can definitely be difficult. Because we're a member based organization, our job is to promote our members, it is to promote the area. So, as we're a destination marketing organization, so we're not trying to promote Hocking Hills Tourism Association, we're trying to promote the region. That said, we do need to get people into the Explore Hocking Hills pages to then be able to see the analytics of that side, to be able to promote to them. So we do keep a close eye on analytics, and I'll say specifically because I know analytics is a huge topic. We pay attention to click through rates. We pay attention to the amount of time someone's looking at something. So whether that's a video, whether that's a specific page on our website, we pay attention to the general engagement rates, which I don't find to be the most helpful day to day. Um, but it is a good benchmark to pay attention to. And then also pay attention to what kind of content is performing the best. So, how many people are liking, how many people are sharing, commenting. If you can get more engagement, more shares, more comments, more people talking about it, then you know you're working on the right track. So yeah, that's what I'd say about that.
No, no, absolutely. That's fantastic. I know that you've talked about, having a scheduling tool, super important, having access
Mhm.
to analytics, also important. Are there any other resources or tools that you're using just to kind of help you stay current with all the things that are going on with marketing trends, particularly in the tourism industry?
Yes. So I have found that it's super helpful to attend a couple of conferences a year. One that I go to every year is the Destinations International annual convention. And Destinations International puts out a lot of information weekly about the different trends, different things that are happening within the tourism industry. So keeping connected with the people that's their job. Their job is to tell us big picture, help guide us through some of these things. Paying attention to that is really helpful. And then see what tools you're using and see what they're putting out. So, one tool that I use is called CrowdRiff, and it helps pull in user generated content. So, what are people posting on Instagram organically? And then you can ask permissions to use those photos and things like that. But they put out a bunch of information of trends that they're seeing from their side. So just keeping aware of what other people are putting out, like hone in on the ones that you find most useful. But to start, you just gotta sign up for some newsletters. You gotta go do some digging, and then see what resonates with you for your specific role. Is what I have found to be most helpful.
Could not agree more. I'm a huge fan of newsletters. I think I get Probably 6 different newsletters at least every single morning. This part of my morning routine now, right? I sit down in my office, and that's the first thing I'm looking through is my newsletters, which is global news, national news, and then industry news like Marketing Brew and some of the terrific places like that. Megan, you've been absolutely amazing. For folks who want to learn more about Hocking Hills, or they want to learn more about you and ask you questions and connect, where should they go?
So our website is exploreHockingHills.com. I have a LinkedIn, a personal LinkedIn as well. So feel free to reach out with any questions. But we also have our Facebook page, Instagram page. You can kind of find us on most corners of the internet. But yeah, feel free to reach out with any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, all of you, for listening today. I hope you found it super interesting and relatable to your role. That's all the time we've got, though. Don't forget to find the Social Pulse Podcast Hospitality Edition on Apple and drop us a review. Let me know what you think, how we can help you in future episodes. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, thanks for tuning in to the Social Pulse Podcast Hospitality Edition, hosted by Mike Alton and powered by AgoraPulse, the #1 rated social media management solution. Discover more at agorapulse.com. Enjoyed the episode? Please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. Your feedback drives our content.